Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to this week's episode of Couch Trip Therapy for Everyday Life. That is none other than Eddie Reece, our subject matter expert and psychotherapist extraordinaire. My name is Billy Courtright, and I am the voice of the every person. We have a very interesting conversation in store for you today. It's been said that the only constant in life is change. And Eddie and I live in Atlanta. And it's also been said, if you don't like the weather in Atlanta, just sit tight because inevitably it will change.
I thought you were going to mention the road construction.
Yeah, that's an issue as well. So if you're anything like me, I am a sucker for routine. I do not like unpredictability or surprises thrown into my day-to-day activities. I don't tend to deal with disruption very well. I'm naturally prone to distraction. So there's a comfort that I feel when I know what's coming and what I'm doing next and what's right around the corner. And when the apple cart that is my life gets upset, I tend to get a little irritable. I tend to feel a little anxious. I tend to get distracted and not perform as well as I'd like. So, Eddie, therapist to the stars, can you please explain to me and our audience why it is that change is so flippant disruptive and so dangerous for people like me?
Well, you mentioned a lot of the reasons, people want predictability. I have clients that for whatever's going on, they'll come up with that they need to know what's going to happen. And, I would go, of course, well, no way of really knowing. And they said, and especially if we're talking about it long term, usually under the subject matter of being happy. I want to be happy. And being happy is somehow always tied to predictability. And so I think I've told this story in another podcast, but if you were always happy, which is, I go, that's really what you want, right? You want to always be happy. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So you leave the session and you find out that your best friend was just tragically killed. And you go, oh, wow. That's too bad. And you go to the funeral home and it's like, hey, what's up? Yeah, how you doing? Yeah, oh, man. Awesome day out there. Is that really what you want? If you got predictability, that would mean that you know what you're going to eat for lunch on June 7th, 2032, if you live that long. You would also know how you're going to die and when, and how everybody you know is going to die and when. And is that what you want? The only reason in this subject matter that life is worth living is because you don't know. If you knew, I'd tell my golfers that, I go, really, the thing that keeps you playing is not the good shots, it's the bad shots. Because you know you can do better than that. And when you're over the ball and you hit a shot and you're not happy, it's because it's not what you predicted.
Mm.
And your prediction is supposed to be right.
Right.
And that's why you're mad. And that's silly.
Yeah.
So to bring all this back to change is, like you were describing, Billy, something I've got my routine planned out for the day. So that's making a prediction. I'm gonna do this, then this, then this. And we're not very good prognosticators. So things were going to pop up.
Mhm.
And the reason that we would even have a routine and lay things out, I think, is connected to our desire to survive.
Yeah.
Our survival mechanism says we walked this path yesterday, we found food, no predators. We're going to walk that path again. And if you walk down another path for whatever reason, you're going to be on edge.
Right.
Okay. Or if you're on the path you want to be on and you're not really paying that much attention, and then all of a sudden you're somewhere different, then your survival mechanism kicks in. So we're all routine based, even if your routine is chaos.
Right.
Okay. That's what you feel comfortable in. So we don't want our routine interrupted because it hits that survival nerve ending. Um, and then in bigger change, I had a client who was talking to me this morning about he doesn't like his bank, and he hasn't for a while, and he's talked about it before. And he says, "But for some reason, I don't change." And that's part of what it is like, I don't know those banks, how they work, they could eat me, I don't know.
Right.
So I wanna stay here. And as
The
we
devil
talked
you know.
Yeah, exactly, and, as we talked about it, because he says, "I don't like change." I go, "You don't like change?" I said, "You were once a child, now you're an adult.
Mhm.
If you don't like change, that means you wanna go back to being a child." Okay? And I named off like 15 things like that. And of course, yeah, I don't wanna have that. Okay. Then you have to tell yourself the truth. Change ain't all that bad.
And again, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hearing you describe what I'm receiving as there's change
Mhm.
and then there's certainty. So it's kinda
Yeah.
like, okay, so, like, when we talk about our predictable lives and our routines and our comfort zone, "Hey, I went this road, I survived, therefore that there's" the way I kinda perceive that, and I'm not a therapist, but the way I kind of feel that is, okay, there's an awareness around that path, okay?
Right.
There's some certainty around outcomes, predictable outcomes. Now naturally, things could pop up and we could have unforeseen,
Mhm.
events. The hypothesis could turn out to be inaccurate. But then there's change. And you had said to me off air, when we talk about the subject of change, I think there's, and correct me if I'm wrong, but, like, I look at it as, okay, there's certainty and predictability and routine, and that's comfortable and that's safe. And there's an inherent need, I think, to be safe, survive, what have you. But then there's also this change, like, okay, evolving from a child to an adolescent, from an adolescent to a young adult, from a young adult to an adult, from a single person to a married person, from a student to a professional. I mean, certainly we graduate through life, right?
Mm.
And
Yeah,
that is
with yeah.
change.
Yeah, with the end result being death, which is why we don't wanna get older.
For me in the audience, like, the term change could obviously mean a lot of things, but, like, what I'm hearing you describe is there's this certainty versus uncertainty of your day to day, and then there's this growth or evolution or transformation or metamorphosis that happens as we go through life changes. So,
Mhm.
relationship, growth, aging, are they different or psychologically are they the same?
I think change and certainty, or well, it's not change and certainty, it's change from what I thought was certain.
Mm.
How about that? Just made that up.
Well,
So,
that makes sense.
if I think for sure that this is how it's gonna go, and I walk into it thinking that's how it's gonna go, and it's different, then something's gonna make me do that,
Right.
especially if what happens is something I didn't expect.
Correct.
Um, because
Yeah, obviously,
I don't know.
if the outcome is in line with our prediction or better, we're gonna feel a certain way.
Mhm.
And, like when the term growth, okay? So, like, this idea that there's in my mind, I hear that and I think obviously that's a positive term. We're moving towards something more desirable. We're evolving towards something, better maybe. But if it's not, if the
Yeah.
situation ends up being less than or less desirable or, not as good, then I think am I right to presume that human nature is basically like, "Okay, well, this is less favorable."
I generally respond to that with according to who.
In this example, I'm gonna use
Mm.
my own personal, like, okay, I have a hypothesis, I have an
Right,
expectation.
right.
It's gonna turn out as planned, which is gonna satisfy me in some way, or not. If
Mhm.
you're a negative person that think things are always gonna fall apart, and maybe they do. Or, you for example, someone takes a new job, and they're like, "This I hope this works out, I hope I like my employer, I hope I like my colleagues, I hope I progress and feel good about it." And then it turns out you love it. And it's like, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea working for this organization could be this fulfilling." That could be a better
Mhm.
than, which I would imagine would create a positive feeling, even though it wasn't exactly in line with maybe the prediction.
Yeah, there's something in there. It's still running off this framework of good, bad, right, wrong, which I think gets us in a lot of trouble. So we're walking through life. This is what we think's gonna happen. Something sends us this way instead. We're gonna immediately call that bad. We're not gonna have a bit of curiosity about it. Not a bit of kindness, not a bit of compassion, not a bit of interest in it. We're just mad at it, and we haven't even explored it. And I suggest to my clients to take an improv class because life, I think, would be best lived as improv. The rule in improv is you go with, you don't say no. So, boom, that changed. Imagine you go, "Oh, wow." And you took a look at that. And then you went, "Oh, okay." And you changed that way. And then boom, you get knocked over that way. And you go, "Huh, okay. Yeah." If you do that, what you're demonstrating is what I see as mental, emotional flexibility.
Right.
And the key to really good emotional and mental health is that kind of flexibility. The more rigid someone is, the more miserable they're going to be because that rigidness is what we're talking about in terms of certainty, in terms of predictability, and they're rigid because they're doing everything they can to be right when they predict and then make sure it's right, even if it looks like it might go wrong. So, the more flexibility you have, the more you come from an improv sort of mindset of, "Well, okay, and what is this?" I mean, you could just easily imagine there's no anxiety there.
Right.
You're like, "Eh."
It sounds to me like you're talking about perspective. Like one person's looking
Um,
at variety, the other person is looking at as, "Oh dear, this is not what I expected." It's kinda like how we look at it through our lens, yeah?
well, maybe, I might be saying the same thing, but you've dropped this idea of this matrix that we live in of right, wrong, good, bad.
Yeah.
You're mad because you're gonna label that bad, and you didn't want bad, you wanted good. Whereas if it's improv, you don't know where it's going, and wherever it goes is okay. You're going to go with it.
Right.
Mhm. So again, the rigidity is where the anxiety, the rage, the ill feelings that we have just going through our day, or if something big changes. I'm trying to come up with some sort of scenario that the fires in California are going on right now. So your house burns down.
Mm.
I mean, that's one of my awful nightmares, for
Yeah.
some reason, is the house burning down. That and drowning. I don't wanna die either way. But, okay, you get a call. Let's say you're not there, so you don't know. You get a call and, "Hey, Bill, um, bad news. Your house burned down." If your idea is to go with, it doesn't mean you're happy about it. Your idea of going with is going to take you go with the shock, the confusion, you know, the anger, whatever emotions are gonna come out of it, which are all of the emotions of grief. So you enter immediately the realm of grief, and which so you've gotta first take it in that my house is no longer. And then you do that and grieve rather than what most of us do is we wanna we wanna be the fire inspector, and find out why, what made this, and that's all about control. I need to know exactly what happened so that I
Yeah.
can prevent it next time.
Or at least make sense of it in your own mind.
Yeah, but you don't have to make sense of it. Your
I
house
mean, I
burned down.
do. Like, I think I'm drawn to this logical, like, I don't need to have it answered why it happened to me, but yes, I am going to be the guy that wants to know why it happened.
Well, I might, even from going with, then you might go, "Oh gosh, what happened?"
Well,
Well,
even
there
if the
was
answer is there's a wildfire and 100-mile-an-hour
well,
winds, that's the answer.
that or some electrical spark that, was back in the kitchen. We're not sure exactly where. That doesn't change
Nope,
anything really.
no,
So
but it satisfies a need for certainty. And again, Eddie,
exactly, that's the point. And
yeah,
what I'm promoting here is getting away as much as you can of certainty and trying to live by it, because then you're going to be more rigid
correct.
and more controlling
Yep.
and more upset and anxious and everything that people come into therapy
You
for.
are describing me. And that's
I can't
but here's the but
I
you
can't
are.
imagine, yeah.
It is. It's this intellectual. I don't know where it comes from. It's just this, like, I'm not the type of person to, like, question, "Why is this happening to me?" But I am not gonna rest until I know why it happened. And then once I know why it happened, I'm immediately gonna go to, "Well, gee, what could I have done?" And maybe
Mhm.
the answer is nothing. But again, this is
What
interesting.
if what if after a thorough investigation, we can't find out what happened?
That's going to be difficult for me.
What's the hard part?
I don't know where it stems. You likely explained it earlier by saying it's this survival mode. It's this, I don't know if the expectation or the hypothesis comes true, if that's somehow going
Mhm.
to release some kind of dopamine, which is satisfying. I don't know. But the reality is, if I'm being completely transparent, me personally, I'm the guy watching the crime drama and quietly trying to figure it out before
Mhm.
it's
Sure.
it's just the way I'm wired. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's the fun part about a mystery.
Yeah, but you said something that really made me think, which was, if you are like this, then you're likely going to be afflicted by XYZ, anxiety,
Mhm.
tension, stress, emotional
Yeah.
outbursts, whatever. And you're absolutely 100% right. Those are things I deal with.
Mhm. And
So,
and my guess is, well, there's a couple of things you're doing. One is like we're talking about, you're trying to move back into certainty, predictability,
mhm,
which is rigidness, which is gonna cause you all of these afflictions. The other thing that you're doing is you're focusing on something that's not, Billy, your house burned down.
right,
And so you're actually avoiding the grief that
right.
you've gotta go through.
Bingo.
And so we get fixated on those things so that we don't have to feel, we don't have to hurt, we don't have to go through the process of accepting something that we don't want to accept.
Right.
And again, if you want good mental emotional health, that's what you got to do. You can. We did the show on grief,
Yeah.
didn't
And
we?
we did
And
that.
so
We did it. You
you can
did
go
an
back
amazing.
to that.
Yeah.
That grieving well is living well. So as your therapist, I would help you explore, okay, you find out or you don't find out. What have you accomplished?
Right.
You know? How about helping go through the rubble instead of looking around for what caused it, you know?
I love.
Be in it, go
Yeah.
with, you
Yes,
know?
and when you use terms like rigidity and flexibility, it really makes sense to me and maybe to a lot of our audience, which is it's not good or bad. It's just
Right.
you have this, but I tell you what I'm hearing is, oh, how much more pleasant and
Oh, yeah.
enlightening a life of yes or
Mhm.
flexibility. I mean, ultimately, if you had to ask me, hey Billy, what's more desirable, anxiety or peace? Like,
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
not gonna
it
struggle with
seems
that.
like a no-brainer.
Well, but
Um,
again, you're also the reason I'm getting a little bit emotional here is that it implies that somehow I'm at the bottom of this, right? Like, or
tell me you're at the bottom of
meaning like
what?
like in the event someone is mentally and emotionally healthy, there's more influence over how they react to certain volatility in their life, certain variety or unpredictability. And those
Mhm.
folks likely would have a more pleasant experience with the spice of life as they would look at it in a new perspective.
No, no. You can't say a more pleasant experience. You could say more pleasant experiences and more unpleasant experiences and more devastating experiences and more euphoric experiences, on and on and on, than the average person. That's what the flexibility and the grieving gives us. Gosh, I mean, I both my parents, biological parents, incredibly rigid, OCD. Um, Mom especially just riddled with anxiety, and I was the same way, still am. And I tell this story that, let's see, I'm in college by this time, and I'm in the first apartment that I lived in by myself. And this is years before I knew anything about psychology or therapy. I walked in, and when you walk in, you're walking into the kitchen. And for whatever reason, really caught me that everything in that kitchen was exactly where it always is. And for whatever reason, that freaked me out. Before that moment, that brought me great comfort. Right. And so I started on a process, again, not knowing anything, of moving things. Sometimes, most of the time, I would move it just a little, to where it'd be easy to move it right back. And what I noticed is when I saw that, it it was that. And I've done this with clients who we're talking about, "Oh, you sound really compulsive about things." And they're like, "Yeah, I like things neat and straight." And I reach over, and the, tissue box is pretty well lined up with the corner of the table it's on, and I turn it, and they look at me, and I go, "I do anything to your nervous system?" And they're like, "Yeah." I said, "What is it doing?" It's like, "I wanna turn it back." And I go, "No, you can't. It's my tissue box." And what I'm demonstrating for them, and what I want you to take from my story, is that you have to go through these emotions, go with them rather than fight them in order to change them. As long as I've felt my anxiety because I see something out of place, I can process with it and rearrange how to feel about that. And I still do little things like that, changing my routine, Think about things that you do every day. I'll bet you put if you're putting on a pair of pants, I'll bet you've got you put the same leg in first, okay? I bet if you're a guy and you're standing at a urinal, you're leaning on one of your legs. It's the same one, okay? Find those things and change them. One of the big things that you get out of that is a growing awareness of being where your feet are.
Mhm.
Because if you put your pair of pants on and 3 minutes later I say, "Do you know which leg you put in first?" You'd sit there and then you'd know, but you're not paying attention to it when you do it. You don't go, "I'm gonna put this leg in first." It just happens.
I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know which one I put in first.
Right. And so you're not paying any attention to getting dressed because probably your brain is down the road,
Oh, yeah.
And so, boy, this hits a lot of different things. People go, I just want more time. And I go, okay, I'll give you more time. Let's watch the clock. You're digital, which is a problem. A lot better if it's analog, but if you look at your phone, the clock on there, if you've ever noticed, has got a second hand on it.
Right.
I say, I want you to watch a hand, and I want you to watch it for a minute, 1 minute, and they'll do that. I say, okay. Now I want you to flip over to your digital, and what does it say? Oh, it says 3:57. Okay. Watch it until it goes 3:58, and then watch it until it goes 3:59. Don't do anything else. 'Cause I want you to know the exact moment. I want you to tell me the exact moment it changes. You probably never seen your digit flip over, so this would be cool. And they sit there, and quite often, they can't do it. They've gotta say something, they've gotta look up, they've gotta do something. They just can't watch it. And they go, "Well, what was that like?" And it's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe how long it took." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
that's because now you have more time."
Or at least awareness of time.
Yeah, which is an awareness of time. If you get yourself here, over and over and over again, your day will last longer. You want more time? Get the flu.
I'm just getting over it. I don't wanna get sick again.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're like, "Oh my god, how long is it the other day?"
Yeah.
Because you're aware of how much time you're sick. You're in the bed. You're not doing things that you wanna do.
Yes. I'll give you another, a tidbit. So I go to the doctor. I think I told you this last week. I went to the doctor, ironically, well, not ironically, I went to the doctor 10 days ago and, fully expected to get a script of a antibiotic of some sort and fully expected myself to be 100% within 2 days. Well, expectation being the seeds of future disappointment,
Mhm.
it did not go that way.
Oh, yeah.
What I was told was that I had a viral infection and that they would be treated with a list of things, 2 of the 3 things I was already taking. So you can imagine how I'm like,
Mhm.
"No, that's not working." Like, I want better. So,
Mm.
and then the lady, sweet as could be, said, "This, sinus infection is going to last 7 to 10 days." And I was like, "That was horrible news.
No.
That was
Yeah,
horrible news for me."
right.
So, what do you think I did? I said, "I'll beat that."
Mhm.
Like, I'm in
Mhm.
good shape. I eat
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
I sleep
Oh, yeah,
good.
good. I'll
I'll knock it out in 4 days. Well, Saturday was 7 days, and I looked at my
Mhm.
wife and I said, "I can't believe how I feel. I can't believe I'm not better." And she's
Mhm.
like, "Well, it's been
7 to
7 days,
10.
7 to
Yeah.
10 days." Yeah, I go, "Well, I thought maybe I had it for a few days when she told me that." And
Mhm.
and she's like, "Well, maybe, or maybe you had it for 6 to 10 hours when she told you that." And so today
Mhm.
is day 10, and this is as close to 100% as I've been since I got the news from the doctor,
Yeah,
which I say all this to say that that was the longest 10 days of my life.
yeah.
Because
Because you're very aware of your time because you're measuring yourself against her prediction.
which was dead on.
Yeah. And you're upset because it's not what you want, that you could beat it and that she would be wrong and you would be right,
Yeah, right.
which is another affliction
But it's
we
not like she
have.
said you win a 10-day cruise through the Mediterranean. Like, I got 10 days of an infection that's really
Right.
quite quite unpleasant.
Yeah.
And when you combine a time frame, which is longer than hoped for, expected, or whatever, with a level of discomfort, which I can promise you, if you listen to last week's episode, you could tell. I mean, I was not comfortable. But anyway, it's really poignant based on our conversation today,
Yeah.
in the context of time and anticipation, favorable versus unfavorable, pleasant versus
Mhm.
unpleasant, comfortable versus uncomfortable. Um, and we've all been on trips. We've all been on vacations, and those 7-day trips seem to go by in a blink.
Yeah, really
A
quick.
7-day viral infection feels like a month.
That's right. So get sick if you wanna slow time down, and there's all these things that we're touching on. What it brings to mind is when it comes to being better emotionally, you're going to discover that it's all kind of tied to the same thing, and a lot of the things are the same thing. I don't know if that makes sense yet, but all of these things over here are connected to grief, for example. All of these things here are connected to control, and which is connected to anxiety and everything that is. And there's no one thing all by itself. And when clients come in, that's what they think they have. We have a communication problem. And in their mind, they'll learn, pretty quickly how to communicate well, and then everything will be great. But the communication problem does come from a lack of skill. You weren't taught how to communicate in these particular situations, but it's the things you're communicating about. Because sometimes I'll say in that first session, they'll say, "Hey, we got a communication problem." And they'll get into an argument, and I go, "Excuse me, I think each of you know exactly what the other is saying. So I don't think this is a communication problem. I think it's a problem of accepting what you're hearing and then arguing against it.
Mm.
So your problem is a problem of you argue instead of communicate in a way that passes along information back and forth.
Mm.
And as far as I know, history of humankind, nobody's argued like that and calling people names and really raging at them and got them to go, "Oh,
Yeah.
you saved me." I mean, it's not going to happen. So you guys have to stop that. And so you go from communication to you don't like what you're hearing to we can go over here. And you can always do that. And I'll kind of, I know we're going to wrap this up. Story I heard a long time ago. I don't remember where or when, but a teacher has a class of small children and they've been learning how to count. And he says, "Okay, got a thing for us to do. Let's all get together here and come up with the biggest number there is." And they're all throwing it out and putting it up. He's writing it up on the board. Finally, he goes, "Anything bigger than that?" And they're all like, "No, no." He goes, "+1." And I tell that story to my clients because I say, "Trust me, there's something underneath that."
Mm.
And if we look at that, there will be something underneath that. Ad infinitum.
Mhm.
And so it's just a matter of taking a look at that, going with that, because you're learning about who you really are, which is different than who you think you are.
Yeah.
Which is one reason people have problems that bring them into therapy.
Sure.
I'm such a nice person. I don't know why. And it's like, yeah, you don't know why when you cuss and scream that people don't like that because you're such a nice person. Is that being nice? Mm, well, I mean, I'm just trying to get them to understand something, and I go, well, that's not the way to do it. And it's not nice. So you're not such a nice person all the time,
Right.
which is true for all of us.
I think you're right. So we started
Mm.
this episode conversation talking about change and how it is sometimes difficult for me and probably a lot of folks. And you did a great job explaining why that's the case and what's going on and how therapy can actually help with that, which I find incredibly enlightening and of tremendous value. Where I want to go before we wrap up is change, in my view, can be looked at in a couple different ways. We talked about the aversion to change and the lack of predictability and the uncertainty and the discomfort and the anxiety around surprise. But there's another kind of change, and it's kind of poignant as we're recording this episode in January. I think there are folks out there, maybe me included. I mean, that we look at, okay, what do I want to improve? What do I want to change? Where do I want to graduate, so to speak, this year? And so understanding conceptually as you do, what's going on internally to change, how do you help someone who maybe not in the greatest relationship, maybe not in the greatest career, maybe not in the greatest health. And they're saying, you know what? Enough. This is the year I'm going to affect change.
Mhm.
I deserve better. I deserve more. I deserve peace. I deserve happiness. So for those that are trying to embrace change or trying to affect change, what kind of insight can you give folks that might be looking at 2025 as their year to put some of those demons away or move forward into a place of a better human experience in their view?
But I would say good luck with that, and especially when you threw in "I deserve." If a client says that, I go, "Why? Why do you deserve it? Do I deserve it? Do they deserve it? What tell me your criteria. Where did you get the data for bing, now I deserve it?"
Well, in the context of my example, I think when people make decisions to affect change, I think an internal dialogue might be in an affirming way. Hey, if I'm having a pep talk with
Mhm.
myself, hey,
Yeah,
you deserve to be healthier. You deserve to be
yeah.
you should
Yeah,
be better. I don't know. Maybe that's the wrong
but you
word, but
don't. You really don't. Uh, again, you're at the kind of a beginning of what might or might not be change. And when most people do that, they're making resolutions. Okay, I'm going to really exercise regularly this year, and they've never exercised regularly. It's probably not going to happen because they're going to do the same thing they've done before. It'll look and smell and taste different, but it's exactly the same thing. They're going to follow a plan that was put together by somebody that does not know who they are, and it's supposed to work. It's not going to, more than likely. Okay. If somebody says, I want to exercise more regularly, I go, well, let's take a little bit of time and explore what stops you. And then maybe we need to do something about the obstacles that you're putting in your way. Okay. And all right, so now we've gotten to the plan. You said you wanted to work out at least 3 days a week for, 25 minutes. I think that's a reasonable goal. Here's what I want you to do for the next 2 weeks, because I want you to chart this. And in order to get a check mark for I exercise today, all I want you to do is change your clothes into whatever clothes you would wear. And then if you want, you can put your other clothes right back on and you get a check mark. And so, yeah, that's all. And they come back and "Did you get how many check marks you get?" "Well, I got all the check marks. That wasn't a problem, and I hope it's okay. I actually did, a little exercise." "Meh, if you want to, I mean, it doesn't matter." "Mm, what's the next one?" "Okay, your goal is to go walking for an hour." "Okay. I want you to change clothes, and I want you to walk, measure it out a little bit, 200 yards, and then you get a check mark. Do that for 2 weeks." And if they come back, "No, I missed this," and say, "Okay, we gotta go back to your obstacles. What got in the way?" Because that's what always gets in the way. And I wonder why you put these obstacles in the way. I wonder why you think it's out of your control. And you've got to start any sort of change as far back as you possibly can in the most simplest of items to pick, because change comes from putting something new into your routine. And we are such a routine based person. I don't want anything new in my routine because it interrupts it. So you've got to work it in there a little at a time. So that you don't like this because your routine's been interrupted. So you make change like that, not by running down and spending $2,000 to join a gym and go buy a bunch of clothing and doing all. It's not going to work.
Eddie, your perspective is amazing. I'm sitting here thinking about and I'm not a big resolution guy. I do start the year trying to be aware. And as a father with kids, 11 and 8, it's been made very clear to me that time does not stop.
Mm-mm.
And, the sayings of, the days might be slow, but those years are fast.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, I mean, since I've been a father, which is, 12 years now, I can't believe how quick it goes. And of course, everyone tells you it will.
It will.
Everyone tells you.
Yeah.
It does.
So what I hear is you want to spend as much time as you can with them.
Yeah, that awareness is absolutely there.
Don't shoot for minutes and hours. Okay. Shoot for present. If you're with them for 10 minutes, how many of those minutes were you completely, entirely focused on you and him and the interaction and what he's saying and doing? Because if you're wandering off thinking about something else, why spend time with him? You're not really with him.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right.
So go for the presence when you're with them more than the amount of time. And if you do that, pretty much all the time grows. Because remember, if you're present, like being, I'm really sick, time slows down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So do that.
Yeah. That's great advice. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the episode on change. This is The Couch Trip, Therapy for Everyday Life. That's Eddie Reece, your psychotherapist. I'm Billy Courtright. We come back every single week to talk about the issues du jour as it pertains to mental health and therapy. And if any of the topics that we covered, or if anything that was, and I know I've made some mental notes, I've made some physical notes, but if you're like me and you go through this conversation and you feel inspired to learn more or reach out, that's exactly why we're doing this. We would love for you to consider or explore therapy and your own mental health and wellness, and find a therapist in your backyard that does a great job, or online. And hopefully you'll keep coming back. And if you're enjoying this content, please don't keep us a secret. And we'll continue to bring you the content every single week because we absolutely love it. And I'm better for it. So Eddie, on behalf of all of the listeners and viewers, I'd like to express sincere gratitude for your patience and time, the amount of time that you've invested in sharing your life's work with our audience is not lost on me. And it's pretty amazing. You make it not easy, and it's certainly not comfortable, but there's a sense of compassion in how you talk, and it makes it palatable for at least me. And I hope our audience feels the same way. So I look forward to having a conversation next week. Don't know where we'll go, but I bet you it'll be fun.
Just go with.
That's right.
And
yes,
thanks for the kind words. I appreciate that, Billy. This podcast means a lot to me, and I'm so glad that we're doing it. And I was thinking about it the other day, and was thinking about maybe sharing how it came about, and maybe put it in the framework of what commitment is, and how commitment really works.
Seeds of future episodes. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a pretty interesting thing. Typically, Eddie and I do not like to know what we're going to talk about until the spirit moves us. So we'll have to see if commitment comes up next Wednesday when we record.
Yeah.
But we're going to keep coming back. So thank you again for tuning in. Share us with your friends, and we'll be back. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.